Did you ever find your headphones?
Yes, I did find them actually.
Who do you think hid them? Who do we need to fight?
What were you saying?
I said now that you've got your headphones on. Who do we need to fight? Who do we think hid them? Where were they?
So Jeff Walker definitely came into the studio and took my headphones.
If you had given me one guess, 100% Jeff Walker.
Yep.
100%. All right, Jeff Walker. You come in, sometimes you just barge in, you're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, cool, like, what are you doing here? Which is fine. Jeff's a delight. But can you please leave my guy's headphones alone? He's a professional radio producer. He's got things to do.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My favorite story is, I think we were playing Cincinnati. Was it Cincinnati?
That's not depends on the story, but maybe we were playing Cincinnati.
So Logan catches this touchdown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was Cincinnati. Yep.
It was Cincinnati. So we put in this play, and it was like, I think we called it Hoss Juke or something like that. I can't remember what we called it in that offense, but Logan's on a seam, right? So he's our vertical threat, taking the top off the defense.
Digging out, guys.
We're talking in the week. I don't think we ever said it in the install with those guys, but they're like, listen, Logan's not even in the progression. He's taking the top off this thing. We're trying to work this little option route down. And they bust this coverage. And I mean, he is screaming wide open.
I wasn't even supposed to be on the play. They were supposed to sub somebody else in because I thought I was too slow to run this route. Just for the context here for everybody.
So he's screaming wide open. And I'm like, Matt, throw it at his back shoulder. You might hit him in stride. If you try and back shoulder him. Threw it right at him. He catches it. It was an awesome touchdown. Just the celebration afterwards was so much fun. For me, it was always fun celebrating the touchdowns with the guys that didn't score them all the time. You know? Like,
take that, Julio Jones.
Yeah. And I'm not, I'm saying that, but like, your role for us was you did the dirty work. And when you see guys that do the dirty work get rewarded for it, that was really cool. Something I'll never forget. The caveman. Yeah. And the caveman was in there in the end zone celebrating. It was awesome.
we've got a guy.
Thank God, because they, thought they had a guy last year, and that's it. It turns out they didn't have a guy. I think what Ron describes is incredibly human there, in some ways. Not probably the word that you would have expected, but I think we've all had problems in our lives that we want to solve, and we know we have to try desperately to find a solution. However, it just doesn't seem like there's one available. I wish I had a good corollary of something recently in my life that was that way, where it's just like, obviously there's always, big picture stuff where you wish you could, I wish I could win the lottery and then I could buy my dream house. Like, that kind of, we all wish we could snap our fingers and have money or whatever. But like even more on an acute level, like just keeping it at work, you wish that you could, you got to get something done, and there just doesn't seem to be a good path to do it. And unfortunately for Washington, I do think, in fairness to Rivera, the last couple of years has been finding a quarterback for him. As bad as they've been, the options out there haven't really been great. Finding a quarterback isn't something that you can just do. Like, you kind of got to suck in the right year or not be good the right amount that the right quarterback falls to you when everyone else falls in love with someone else at number 1 and you wind up with Mahomes at 11. Like, you won. Good job, Chiefs. Sweet. And you, by the way, have the perfect guy to coach him in Andy Reid, who brought in a lot of other great coaches as well that were good for Patrick Mahomes, including Eric Bieniemy. But part of the thing with Howell is they finally just didn't force it. Like with Fitzpatrick, I to this day understand what they were trying to do. They were coming off the playoff run. They were trying to maximize what felt like a window where they could do something with a guy who had a pretty good year the year before in Miami. It didn't work here. Even before the injury, things were a little squirrely in training camp and such. And it flopped, and you wind up with Taylor. And after that season, what they probably should have done is the same thing they did this year with Sam. But they looked at Taylor, and they're like, we know this guy's not going to be a franchise-level quarterback, so we got to go find someone else. Then they got desperate, and they wound up bringing in a guy who was worse instead of just investing to be like, look, we don't have good options. How do we create an environment where we get the absolute best out of Taylor Heineke and we keep looking in the future? And instead, they gave up a bunch of stuff and paid Carson Wentz a bunch of money. And this year, they just didn't have any other options. There was you could have, I guess, paid Marcus Mariota or something like that. Or, I guess you could have signed Brissett and been like, this is our guy. But because they failed in every other way outside of drafting someone, and they weren't in a position to draft someone high that they liked, they fall into a guy who seems like he could be the solution to their problems. And that is obviously tremendously exciting. I'm curious for all of you on the phones. We can take some calls next. You'll hear more from Rivera as well at 301-230-0980, the H-Law listener line. Your confidence level compared to the last couple of years at the quarterback position. Because if we're being honest, like Fitzpatrick should have had a higher confidence level because of the year he was coming off in Miami compared to Sam Howell having one start in his career. Going into last year, I get Wentz because Wentz looked bad all preseason, bad in training camp, and looked bad in Indianapolis. Although he was coming off of a very successful run, wins losses wise, with Indy at the end of his only season there. So where are you? Like, where have you been most of the last couple of years, 1 to 10 on the confidence scale? Where are you now? 301-230-0980, plus more from Rivera next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, where it's a show with the host and a producer that got lunch together today. Which, by the way, Anthony, you did your math earlier, but you still got to Venmo me the money off of your 30% from the last fine calculation when we hit our first ever show lunch based off the fine system.
The thing is, though, I don't have Venmo, so can we use something else?
Oh, that's right. You don't. What's your deal with Venmo again? Why don't you have it, or Cash App, or you don't have any of them, right?
No, I have Cash App.
Okay, I take Cash App.
Okay, cool.
Trust me. My number one rule for a business, if you're a customer service person out there, pay attention. Here's the most important thing that you can do for your business. Don't make it hard for people to give you their money. 100% of the time, that is a bad way to get money. If I want to pay you some way, you should be ready to try to accept my money if it is something that is reasonably done. So, as someone who's run like small businesses and stuff, like I have over the course of time made it very easy for people to give me their money. I look for that. By the way, we had lunch on 8/23. And the reason by the way, Anthony pulled up the fine board, is because
I'm winning. I'm in the lead right now.
No, except for you're not about to be. Because guess what I forgot to do?
Start the stream.
I didn't start the stream. I just forgot to stream audio. So the folks on YouTube missed the first 3 minutes of the show, audio-wise. And shout out to the first lady of the Hoffman Show, who was amongst those going, "Hey, where's the sound?" And she texted me and said, "Hey, I hope you see this because the audio is muted." However, did not happen before that is a procedural penalty, thus a 10-point fine.
We're moving fast, man. We're going to be having lunch tomorrow at this rate.
I hope not. We still got 25 points to go. For those that are new to the show, with a fine system, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see our board. Our last lunch, 8/23, that's today. Our total is 75. We use a point system. When we hit 100 points, we see who's got what percentage, and we chose 100 because if say I have 70 points, that means I pay for 70% of lunch. So that's how that works. That was a 10-point fine for me. Anthony had a 15-pointer at the end of the show yesterday. That was really bad. That was not good. That was not good. It was a personal foul on Haney.
Yeah.
So that's where we stand. 75 total points. We are 25 points away from more lunch. Although honestly, I'm like, let's just go again now. That what I had was delicious.
Yeah, I think you wanted more, to be honest.
I did. I kind of wanted to just order another one.
Yeah.
Or at least double the chicken on it.
The thing is, I still have my chicken sandwich.
Yeah, you still have a half a sandwich.
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you bring the fries too, by the way? Why didn't you go leftover fries?
I don't eat cold fries.
You could have heated them up.
You heat up fries?
I mean, they're not great in a microwave. Actually, they're not even good in a microwave.
Correct. The fact that you heat up fries,
here, hold on.
It's criminal activity. That is crazy.
Unless you have an air fryer.
Okay.
If you have an air fryer,
I need to try these.
That's one of the great things about an air fryer. Not to become air fryer guy on the radio here.
Yeah.
But one of the great things about an air fryer is it means you can reheat basically every food that sucks to reheat in the microwave. You could, if you want to go full oven on fries, if you got that kind of time, great. But air fryer, you pop them in there 2-3 minutes.
Are you doing that for Popeye's French fries?
For an air fryer?
In general. Yeah.
Yeah, no, any fries that's worth eating.
I gotta try this.
Can be reheated in an air fryer to basically peak freshness.
I gotta try this, and I will give you my review.
Do you have an air fryer, or you got to get one?
I don't have one.
Okay.
My parents do. My brothers do.
They're great.
Everyone has one except me.
Yeah.
I don't think I would use it that much.
You don't really cook.
Yeah, I have the luxury where I get free meals.
So, yeah. As you sit there in your Georgetown prep polo.
Yes, sir.
What's for dinner tonight?
That I don't know. I actually don't check the menu. I just roll into the caf and eat.
That must be nice.
Yeah.
Being able to eat. This is the worst thing about being someone with a wide-ranging food allergy, is that you can't just go places and assume that you'll be all set.
I mean, we have the salad bar there every day.
I mean, that's nice.
At least you have something to fall back on.
I guess, but that's really fallen.
Yeah.
Fallen and landed on a bed of lettuce. It's not the kind of bed I want to fall into. Bed of lettuce.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's a rough life out here. Anyway, Ron Rivera talked about quarterbacks and stuff. Barry Svrluga's in 5 minutes, by the way, on Davey Martinez's extension. But to close out and deliver on the tease, we did promise more Rivera on the quarterback position. How does he feel differently compared to the last 2 seasons?
I think there's not that question mark still. You know what I'm saying? You always kind of, for 3 seasons, I've always felt that I had a question mark. And now you feel like, wow, it feels like, okay, this is pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable, pretty confident, and I look forward to seeing it. I really do. I mean, the other night, seeing it was wow, that he did some really nice things, and let's keep rolling, let's keep growing, and hopefully it continues.
That's an interesting quote from Ron Rivera. I think if we really wanted to do the full show on it today, we could. Because the same guy that said, bleepity bleep, 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 analytics, bleep, 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 Carson Wentz, blah, 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 my guy, bang, podium. I don't think I got that quote exactly right.
I watched the film.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That.
I was like, what? It was the analytics. He cussed a lot. I'm the one who looked at the bleeping analytics. I watched the bleeping film. Carson's our guy. He's doing great. It is amazing how much talking to people, hearing that from Rivera, talking to people behind the scenes, they were the lengths they went to try to foster a positive environment to get the best out of Carson Wentz. And it's like, dude, if you got to do that much for a guy, he ain't worth it unless he's gonna be awesome. And guess what? There was no world where Carson Wentz was going to be awesome. And they did all this stuff. And now Ron comes out and he's like, yeah, I feel way more confident in this kid that we took 2 years ago in the 5th round than I do the guy that we traded a 2nd and a 3rd for and paid, what was it, $30 million? $28 million, I think it was?
Yep, $28 million.
Not great, Bob. I see you frantically looking at the computer. Did you find the quote?
I was trying to. It was in October, right?
Yeah, I bet you I can find it.
It was in October.
It was after the Bears game.
Yeah,
Hold
exactly.
on.
Which was October 6th. It was a Thursday night football game, right?
It was. So it would have been. Or that. We mean we would have had the quote on Friday.
I think somebody took it out of our folder.
No, or maybe we pulled it from someone else's folder because every show used that clip that day.
Yeah, you might be right.
So there's. Oh no! Here it goes. It was the next week. Remember this? Oh, no, that's the segment. Dang it. Here, hold on. But this looks like it.
I'm going to speak my mind for a second. For honestly, it's been hard. It really has. You lose 4 games in a row, and everybody wants to get you, just get on you. And they've played their asses off. They have. They played their asses off for everybody. They come out and they show up. They work hard. All right? They don't complain. Okay? They hear all this stuff, and they got to deal with it. I get that, and I respect them for that because they're resilient. They come back. Everybody keeps wanting to say, I didn't want anything to do with Carson. Well, I'm the guy that pulled out the sheets of paper, that looked at the analytics, that watched the tape in the when we were at Indianapolis. Okay? And that's what pisses me off because the young man doesn't deserve to have that all the time. I'm sorry, I'm done.
This guy, man.
And then today, it's.
I think there's not that question mark still.
We got to revisit this, dog.
I think we have to come back to this. That is definitely going to be part of the the training camp pick 6 at 6. It is one of our 2 last training camp practices, so that gets to be an official training camp pick 6 at 6 today. Yeah, we're coming back to this later. We're going to talk to Barry Svrluga next. The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Wow! We're streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980, and it is our pleasure to welcome back to the show our guy, Washington Post columnist Barry Svrluga. Barry, how we doing, man?
Good, Craig. How are you?
Doing well. So it has been a busy week for the Nats. And we're wondering if perhaps it could get busier. Obviously, they've been winning on the field, which is very, very nice. But there is the extension for Davey Martinez. And then there is this comment that I'm sure you have heard, Barry. But just in case the audience hasn't heard it, I would like for them to hear at least part of this as well. From Mike Rizzo this morning on the Junkies about his own extension. So they asked him, hey, you got Davey done. Could you be next? Here was Mike Rizzo this morning.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm Davey's boss. My job is to take care of Davey and take care of the players in the clubhouse, and I've done my job. It was important for me to have ownership sign off on this multi-year contract. To me, it was important to have Davey solidified in that clubhouse as a guy who's going to be around and see this rebuild go through. So that was a success, and job well done, Mike.
So he congratulates himself and then is like, yeah, we'll see about my deal next. Barry, what did you make of all of that, and where are we on the next extension with Rizzo?
Well, my understanding is there are discussions going on with Rizzo. This is all, frankly, an ownership decision. Mike is Davey's boss, but my understanding is that the extension for the manager comes from ownership. Yes, Mike Rizzo supports Dave Martinez, but he also supports Mike Rizzo, and he has always been strung along by this ownership group. He's I think one time had a 3-year deal. It's mostly been 2-year deals. This is further complicated by the fact that the Lerner family is still interested in selling the team. That's not going to happen. That process isn't really going to move forward much until the off season. We don't know if they will end up getting the price that they want. And so while what we've been told is any buyer wants to have some sort of leadership structure in place, you also don't want to sell with a bunch of long-term contracts in place. So it's unlikely that this is going to be the time that the Lerner family gives Mike Rizzo a 5-year deal. So it's complicated, and it's a little sensitive because Rizzo is clearly of the mind that, look, you guys gave Steven Strasburg this contract that really crippled the payroll in beginning in 2020 because he hasn't been able to pitch. That kind of, if you pick it apart, led to the necessary moves to make the trades that ended up with a rebuild. And his argument is, I did the best baseball trades I could. You can see, Mark Lerner said in a statement to me a couple of weeks ago, look, the rebuild is further along than we expected it would be. Rizzo's sitting there saying, thinking to himself, I'm sure, that's not because of anything that ownership did. That's because my front office and I went about making good baseball trades that have, led to the addition of promising players that are both on the major league roster right now and still to come. So I would expect that something would get done with Rizzo. It probably will be 2 years with an option. That's kind of what it always is. This has never been easy because he has always felt, as a guy who did the original build of this team and ended up winning a World Series, that he's been undervalued here. But there are only 30 of these jobs, and if he leaves one, there's no guarantee that he would end up with another one.
So a couple of questions to follow up on that. First of all, what is that, like the 2-year plus an option type of thing? How does that compare to other general managers? Like Brian Cashman's been with the Yankees forever, amidst the fire Cashman chants last night, the Nationals beat them. But he's been there since the 90s in the organization, and I believe since the early 2000s as the lead GM, if my timeline remembering is correct. So, like what does his contract look like as kind of a lifer with one organization compared to what Rizzo's getting compared to the average Major League Baseball general manager?
So you don't get executive deals that are longer than 5 years in general, and that's the outer edge. I honestly don't know Cashman's current situation, but he's being rolled over in a similar fashion, but probably not 2 years and an option. It would be more like 3 or 4, something in that range, a little bit more stability. The Lerners have never really wanted to have a long-term commitment either to the GM or a manager. They've famously wanted to hire Bud Black after they fired Matt Williams in 2015, and they offered a 1-year deal with an option, which Black said, wait a second, that's not standard for the industry. Like, I'm not going to do that. They ended up with Dusty Baker. They ended up in a good spot. But this is not something that they have really committed to long term. They don't see the upside. And they are very famous, both in their real estate business and what we've seen with baseball. Like, they do business on their terms, and they're not really concerned with what the market looks like and what the industry standards are. So therefore, you end up with a general manager who's been the general manager here since 2009, been with the organization since 2006, who keeps getting these short-term deals, despite the fact that he feels like he has, built a sustained winner from 2012 to 19, and now put it back in position to, maybe have another similar run where they're making the playoffs 4 out of 7 years or something like that. It's an odd situation for sure.
Barry Svrluga, columnist of the Washington Post, with us. Nobody else we'd rather talk Nats with here on the Hoffman Show. So the other question that I have for you on the heels of the Rizzo side of this is about the White Sox opening. They fired 2 of their top executives yesterday, and Rizzo's from Chicago. You connected a few dots on Twitter saying, like, this is something to pay attention to. Can you expound on that tweet for us and why you think that's worth paying attention to?
Yeah, and I'm not really one for throwing stuff out there that's speculation, and I wanted to make clear that this is just kind of me sitting in a chair watching the game and thinking, whoa, like, Chicago is home for Rizzo. And the other dot I would throw in there is that Jerry Reinsdorf, the 87-year-old owner of the White Sox, adored Mike Rizzo's dad, Phil, who passed away a few years ago, a longtime scout, Chicago area scout, who Jerry Reinsdorf used to love sitting around talking baseball with. So is that interesting? Yeah, it's interesting. Reporting by other folks seem to indicate that that the White Sox are already poised to go in another direction in promoting somebody internally and then adding Dayton Moore, the former Kansas City Royals general manager who built a World Series winner there. That seems to be the direction they're going. I can't tell you that there's anything with the White Sox and Rizzo other than that's a curious connection in one of the 2 teams in his hometown, a hometown that he still absolutely loves. But I think if we gave him some truth serum, he also would, in a way, I don't know this, but there's a lot of appeal for Mike Rizzo to do what he did here a second time, because it would be different than, hey, I built this thing into, a team that over a 7-year period, won more games than any team but the Dodgers. And we just kind of had this juggernaut. It would be, we had this really good annual contender. We finally won a World Series. We tore it all down and reloaded and did it again. There's a real appeal, I think, as somebody who's 62 and has more years behind him in baseball than he has ahead, to do what he's already done here again and go out with another ring with this same franchise.
Yeah, that institutes you as a legend in the history of the organization. And, you're already in pretty good shape when you've won a World Series, but that'd be put you in rare air in baseball. That's like Hall of Fame type of stuff, potentially. So Barry Svrluga with us for another minute or two here on the Hoffman Show. So that's the Rizzo side of it, the still pending side. But what do you make of the Davey extension? He's obviously guided this team to the World Series, won it now through the rebuild. Is he the right guy to build it back up and get them back there again? And is that something that is I don't want to say feasible within the terms of his contract, because that means you're like winning a World Series 2 years from now, and that seems like a pretty far-fetched ask. But enough time to prove that I can get us there. You just got to give me one more of these things.
Yeah, I think that if you had asked me that question in March or at the beginning of the season, or even earlier in the season when it looked like, I was really thinking that this was going to go south at some point. I would have thought, I think it's probably time to move on. This is, Davey Martinez had been a bench coach in Tampa when they went to the World Series with Joe Madden. He moved to the Cubs with Madden and helped with that build that led to the 2016 World Series, and then came here with very competitive teams. His second team won the World Series, and I was prepared to think, this is not the right fit for what is a full-on overhaul. But now we're in late August, and some of the criteria for how I was thinking of evaluating this season from the major league level was, is C.J. Abrams in September a better player than C.J. Abrams of April? Is Keibert Ruiz of September a better player than Keibert Ruiz in April? And go through it with Josiah Gray, who's obviously struggled a little bit since the All-Star break, last night's outing notwithstanding. But I think in general you can say, one, those players that are key to the organization's future have improved, and you can't just totally divorce the manager and the coaching staff from that. And then two, even the players who are here just kind of as gap fillers have managed to, since late June, play on like a 93-win pace for over 50 games, which is, close to a third of a season. Like, baseball's all about sample size. Like, that's not really a small sample size. This is not a 93-win team, but he's very good at the day-to-day kind of staying in touch with players that really matters in a sport where, you don't have practice for 5 days and then play a game. There is no practice. You're judged with real results every night, basically. So I'm pleased to say that, 5 months into the season or whatever it is, I'm in a different place with Dave Martinez than I thought I might be in April, because the team is playing well on a night-to-night basis, and then some of the players who matter for the future have genuinely improved.
That is great perspective. If you want more of it from Barry, WashingtonPost.com/sports. Barry, always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Barry Svrluga, everybody. Really interesting stuff on the Rizzo side of it. Like, Davey's pretty straightforward. Like, they've had a much better year. It makes sense. You let him keep going. And, hey, man, good trajectory. Keep climbing. Rizzo, we'll see where this ultimately goes. I also think it's fascinating. Like, yeah, the learners play by their own rules and don't care about industry standards. Not a place I would want to work. Just saying. I want someone who cares about those kinds of things. But I guess that's also why they're very, very, very wealthy. All right, when we get back here on the Hoffman Show, a couple more updates from practice, a little bit more from Ron and Eric Bieniemy. Then Denton joins us at 5 o'clock before Never Read the Comments at 5:30. First, though, a look at what's trending.
Here's what's trending on the Team 980.
Couple of NFL stories. Sam Darnold is QB2 in San Francisco. Not exactly surprising, but according to The Athletic's Diana Rossini, as Diana now their senior NFL insider, she's reporting that the 49ers have actually been kind of scoping out trades on Lance all off season. Nobody's really bit, but we'll see now that they are open to trading him as QB3 if they maybe perhaps come down on their offer or if someone wants to get in on it. But Sam Darnold officially QB2 behind Brock Purdy in San Francisco. RB1 in Indy is a TBD because the Colts have given Jonathan Taylor until Tuesday to find a suitable trade offer after authorizing the star running back earlier this week to engage with other teams. That according to Stephen Holder at ESPN, who says 6 teams have inquired about Taylor's availability and 2 have engaged with the Colts with official offers. That's what's trending. I'm Craig Hoffman on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always alive as well on the free Odyssey app. Denton Day joins us, top of the hour, of course, producer for the Kevin Sheehan Show, but also host of a new show on Sirius XM, their college football channel. Also a weekend host for us here at Odyssey DC. You hear him all the time on 106.7 The Fan. Does Burgundy and Gold game day stuff. Denton's a smart guy. Really fun talking to him, talking ball with him. Always love going on with him, so it'd be good to have him on the show. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we'll do a little pro, do a little college, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, though, Anthony, I have a question.
I will give you my best answer.
Okay. I don't even know if it's that kind of question that like it needs an answer, right? It's more of like I have a question that we can toss around and try to come up with a collective answer.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Should you be able to get like select driver settings on Uber?
Select driving settings?
Like, I want a driver who will break a few laws. I definitively do not want a driver that will break a few laws. They probably shouldn't word it that way because if you select, I'm a driver that will break a few laws on the driver's side of that. Uber should be like, no, we don't. We're not going to pay you.
Yeah.
But like, describe your driving style. Aggressive. Okay. That's not the Uber I want. Some people want that.
Sometimes you need that though, Craig.
Yeah,
all right,
maybe not necessarily
earlier. Maybe not necessarily need, but say you're, running late for, I don't know, a flight, and you're like, yo,
step on it.
You're driving too slow. I need you to get we got to be on the I-10 by 10, and you're moving too slow for me right now. So yeah, sometimes you need that. Actually, that happened to me in Vegas.
I-10's a long way away, bro. We're gonna hopefully we're taking a flight there. That's a California.
An example.
This is a cool rhyme though. The reason I ask is, so I wound up taking an Uber down here today because I went to take the Metro and there was some incident that happened and there were delays and I was like, I'm not dealing with this today. So I pulled up Uber. It wasn't that expensive. I was like, all right, cool. That or I would have just gotten on a scooter and scooted through DC. But I was like, nah, the Uber's fine. It's like $12, which not bad at all. So my guy, like 2 or 3 times during the ride, put us at some risk / did some risky business.
So you were scared.
There was one point where and this one made me mad because it's like a pet peeve. Driving works better when everyone follows the rules and then we all work as a team. We all get where we're going faster. Things slow down when people are like, I'm more important than you. And they cut people off, and then there's issues, right? So we're in a 2 lanes becoming 1 merge, and my Uber driver does not let the other car in, and that this big old truck got real close to us. Now it was on the driver's side, I was sitting on the passenger side, so it would have slowed me down because there would have been a wreck, and I would have been like, yo, I got to go to work. I'm just trying to get out of here. I got lunch with Haney. We did a lot of dumb stuff on the show. We got to pay for it ourselves. But we got a business lunch. So I'm going to get on a scooter because it's apparently the only mode of transportation. Anyway, the point is that didn't happen, but it got real close. And so then there was another point that we were making a turn, and dude, we were trying to make a left turn, and sometimes you make the left turn, you got to wait. And I could feel him getting impatient behind 2 cars in front of us, 2 vehicles. One of them was actually I don't remember if it was a motorcycle or a moped, but it was a 2-wheeled, open vehicle. And I could see him just getting impatient. And I'm like, what's this dude about to do? And I'm like, oh, maybe he'll go up a block. It's a little easier to turn there, and then he'll circle back. Fine, I've done that before, especially some very specific streets in D.C. where, the turn is just a lot easier, right? Nah, this dude, after almost getting me broadsided, he starts to pull out and realize, oh, no, there's a car coming. It wasn't that close, but I was like, yo, chill. As the light is turning yellow, so he kind of almost runs the red light, gets in the right lane where I think he's going to go straight and then go make a left on the next block, and then goes around these other 2 cars and makes the left anyway. And I'm like, we did this successfully, so I'm going to get to work faster. Yep. And that way, I guess this works out for me. But I would also like to make sure I get there alive. And you know what's really going to make me late? Is if you get pulled over for doing something dumb. How does that work? If you get pulled over, I'm sure we could. This is a good June topic.
That actually happened to one of my friends.
I was going to say, I feel like callers would have stories on this.
Yes.
We can talk about this next July. But if you get pulled over in an Uber, can you just be like, hey, officer, this is an Uber. I'm trying to get to work. You can sort this out with him, but I'm going to go. Is that cool? And the officer's probably going to be like, no, get your butt back in the car.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Dang. I should have asked my friend if they had to wait.
I don't know. Tweet us at Craig Hoffman. Leave a comment on the YouTube stream at Craig Hoffman, at the Team 980 on YouTube. Let us know. Luckily, none of that happened. I got here safe and sound, just a little annoyed. And the funny thing is, there's some people that listen to all of that and like, damn, this Uber driver sucks, and they're going to be mad at me for what I'm about to say. I gave him 2 stars.
2 stars. Good. Great. Was he listening to Doc Walker? Was he listening to the Team 980?
No, then he would have at least gotten 3.
Oh, okay. All right.
But no, like, here's the thing about star rating systems. I think this is another fun topic. I think we're too polite as a society when it comes to rating systems. Not everything can be a 4.8 or 4.9 star. If the nicest restaurant in town's 4.9, just because we're in a different price bracket doesn't mean that the other neighborhood spot is also whatever. I guess restaurants I'm a little more okay with. But, like, I feel like we need a better understanding of, like, what is truly 5 stars and what is not.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just do it out of the generous
You don't need to be kind.
generosity.
Your Uber driver, if your Uber driver sucks, then I want to know about it so I don't get them. So don't be like, oh, I just won't rate them. No, if they're and like I've done that where it's like, oh, that wasn't my favorite experience, but like nothing really went wrong, right? I would give it 4 stars, but I can just not rate it and it'll be fine. But if someone truly sucks, you should give them a bad rating. You should write that bad review. That's all I'm saying. But also, if someone's really good, you should give a good review. Don't screw over local businesses. And Uber drivers are kind of like local businesses. Now I'm talking myself in circles. Point is, this guy was dangerous, and so I gave him 2 stars. All right, when we get back, speaking of dangerous, Denton Day's going to join us. never read the comments. Coming at 5:30, it's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Top of the next hour, a training camp pick 6 at 6. The penultimate, second to last, training camp pick 6 at 6. Right now, though, 5 o'clock. You know what that means. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Pleasure to welcome in our guy, Denton Day, of course, producer here at 980 for the Kevin Sheehan Show, also weekend host on 106.7 The Fan, and host of a brand new show on SiriusXM College Sports. So we will talk some pro ball, talk some college ball with him. Denton, you got all the beats for Not My Beat today. Everything's on you. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, covering a lot of bases today, but I think I'm up to the challenge. I appreciate you having me.
You always are. You always are. Let's start with the Commanders, and we kind of stumbled into this at the beginning of the show. Rivera, have you heard Rivera's presser today? I know it was like the very end of your show, so I'm going to play this for you and the audience. But Rivera talked about how he feels this year for the quarterback position compared to in years past. And we thought the candor was appreciated and also hilarious considering comments previously. Here was the quote today.
I think there's not that question mark still. You know what I'm saying? You always kind of, for 3 seasons, I've always felt that I had a question mark. And now you feel like, wow, it feels like, okay, this is pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable, pretty confident. And I look forward to seeing it. I really do. I mean, the other night, seeing it was wow. That he did some really nice things, and let's keep rolling, let's keep growing, and hopefully it continues.
Unlike when Ron was banging the podium and swearing in Chicago about Carson Wentz, do you actually believe him this time, and are you as confident as he is?
If this was in a vacuum, I would believe him, but we have 3 years of history that suggests maybe I should tiptoe across this bridge of belief a little carefully. Now, I will say I do like Sam, Craig. Like, from what I've seen from him so far, I would cautiously stick a flag in the ground and say that I am a Sam Howell guy, but it does make me a little uneasy when Ron says stuff like this. One, because I know in like 3 weeks he's going to backtrack. But two, just knowing his track record with quarterbacks, odds are, unless it's blatantly obvious like it was with Cam Newton, if he really likes a quarterback, it's usually not the greatest sign in the world.
Well, so the thing is, he always says he likes his guy. And I think that's like it's part of NFL head coaching. You're not going to get up at the podium and be like, yeah, we're pretty nervous. I think our guy actually sucks. But the relaxed nature of his voice here makes me think that he actually believes it this time, where deep down he knew that he was convincing himself the last couple years. Which I think is interesting. And I also wonder how much Eric Bieniemy has to play in this, where if Eric goes, yeah, Sam's good, like, trust me, I know good quarterbacking, that's got to make a difference.
Yeah, I think it does. And I will say, like, I do feel more confident about Sam entering week 1 than I have with, just about anybody in Ron Rivera's tenure. Like, say what you want about the history of Carson Wentz. I think all of us knew he was not going to be the option long term here. If nothing else, at least Sam Howell has the potential to grow into the option. I'm not saying he's going to go out there against Arizona, throw for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, and really just flex on everyone. That's more than likely not going to happen. But based on what we've seen in preseason and how comfortable he looks running this offense, albeit obviously we know it's preseason, they're not really doing a ton of the stuff that they're going to be doing come week 1, but he does look comfortable and confident, which just based on the last 3 years, it doesn't feel like this team has had a lot of comfortable and confident quarterbacks.
No, or competent quarterbacks, and he does look like that. Bieniemy's role obviously is going to be a big part of that. And kind of, I think one of the fascinating things about where we are with this team and these play callers and kind of the whole offensive system is the commentary coming out of last year. And I know the Mayhew quote was taken way out of context and waylaid with a mallet by every national media donk who didn't want to pay enough attention to actually get the context right about running the football. But it was clear that they wanted to be a run-first team coming out of last season. What do you think the offense looks like week one with Bieniemy clearly not really caring what Rivera, nevertheless Scott Turner, thought coming out of last season?
You know, I wouldn't mind them being a run-first team. I still think there is a place for that in the NFL. And I know I'm in the minority at least a little bit when it comes to the national conversation.
It's just you and Chris Russell, which is a place you always want to be.
Yeah, great. I love the Rooster. I swear I do.
I do too. I just also love poking them on very specific things.
You know, I do love the running back room, though. Like I think there's a lot of talent there. But I'm really optimistic that they're going to turn this into a true West Coast-style offense. You know, Sam has the big arm, and my hope is that we do see that occasionally. I would really prefer them not to rely on it. And I think with the weapons they have here, like, Craig, if you remember, week one against Jacksonville, and I harp on this all of the time because it felt like everything went right in terms of the play calling. You were getting your guys with creative motion and getting them in space and allowing them to do what they do best, make guys miss, pick up extra yards. And then for whatever reason, Scott Turner decided this worked really well, let's never do it again. I'm hoping that Eric Bieniemy implements that significantly more. So if Sam's taking 3 and 5-step drops a majority of week one, and then maybe there's like one deep shot down the field and they're running 25 times, odds are they're going to beat Arizona by a pretty comfortable margin at that point. So I really do hope there is a balance. I love the running back room. I don't need Sam to be unleashing 70-yard bombs down the field every possession.
No, definitely not. And I think that you see the arm strength play out against Baltimore in ways that proves, like, he didn't have a downfield shot against Baltimore, but he's got 20-yard lasers to the intermediate stuff. And, that matters.
Craig. Oh, how nice was it to see a guy putting zip with a 15-yard pass instead of whatever you wanted to call what Taylor Heineke and what Carson Wentz were doing last year. Oh, it was so nice to see.
I mean, like, Carson would have a couple. There's the play, I think it was week 2 against Detroit, one of the few good throws he had. I mean, I guess they were good in the second half of that game, but they laid the egg so badly in the opening, they still lost. But the one where he, like, throws from the left hash, 20 yards up the field down the right sideline, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But
we need that more often.
Yeah, too bad it happens once every blue moon. But I think I told this story on Kevin's show when I came on with you guys after the first Baltimore joint practice. Like, there was a play on that Tuesday where it's an RPO kind of fake hand. I don't know if it was our true RPO. I'd have to go back and watch tape, which obviously I'm not allowed to watch practice tape. But it was a play action, let's call it, a little token fake, and then he just lasers a sit route to Jahan Dotson, and it goes right past Kyle Hamilton. And if it's Taylor Heineke, like, it's a pick six. And I think there's just certain things that when you watched Heineke or you'd watched Alex Smith or some of the other quarterbacks that have been here, and then you go watch Mahomes and Rodgers and these elite quarterbacks operate, or even the good ones, the Dak Prescott level quarterbacks operate, you just see a crispness that I think you actually see with Howell, and it looks like NFL football. And I don't know how much of that is Howell or how much of that is the offense, but it is very, very noticeably different, I think, to even an untrained eye that this is different this preseason.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of that, just with the him moving the pocket, like the comeback route to Jahan Dotson in the preseason game, I thought was great because, one, Jahan broke the route off when he saw Sam was moving, and they were able to find each other. But that style where he's moving, he has the threat of his legs to go make a play, but he's also keeping his eyes down the field. That was refreshing to see. And then, oh, by the way, he delivered a great pass to Jahan. They pick up the first down, keep the chains moving, and then ultimately score a touchdown on that drive. So it's those little things where, does that really show up big on like a stat sheet? No, but if you're watching, you see those and you're like, we haven't had that here in a really, really long time.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Denton Day with us, of course, producer of the Kevin Sheehan Show, host on 106.7 The Fan, here on the Hoffman Show. All right, what's the roster, like, whether it's roster battle, position battle, roster thing from the guys that'll be playing on Saturday against Cincinnati that is most intriguing to you?
I'm really intrigued about the running backs. We know Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson both going to make the roster. Feel pretty comfortable saying that. I know there's going to be a third guy. I'm not sure who that third guy is going to be, or do they love both guys between Rodriguez and Williams enough to keep 4?
Do you think there's
a feel?
I mean, I think Rodriguez is RB3, and it's not even close.
but I love Jonathan Williams. I think there's something about Jonathan Williams. He runs hard. He is a real gamer in my eyes. Now, will he really make a difference if they lose Jonathan? Like running backs in today's NFL, of course, we know that. But I would love to keep him in the event where somebody goes down, because if they cut him, I don't think he's making the practice squad. I do think someone else will pick him up. But I'm also concerned, Craig, or maybe not concerned, but I'm curious about defensive backs. You know, we have the three big guys, right, with Forbes, with Fuller, with St. Juste. Who else is going to earn that? Are they going to do that thing they did last year where they only kept 4 corners and 5 safeties? Like, how are those numbers going to balance out? I think they have a lot of talent back there. I'm really just interested to see how they move the numbers around to maintain the depth.
Yeah, the corner spot does feel a little thin. And Wild Goose's lackluster performance in the 2 preseason games certainly hurts that. I think there's a chance Castro Fields sneaks on potentially. But you've got, obviously, the big 3. I think Christian Holmes is on the team. I think Danny Johnson, 100%. I put Johnson over Holmes even. And then at that point, are you keeping a 6th? Because you've got 5, and that's where Wild Goose or Castro Fields, or maybe they do what they did last year where they brought in Wild Goose and Castro Fields after cutdown day.
Right. Because I'm with you in Danny Johnson. I think he's played really well, and I like Holmes as well. And I'm curious as to see, like, how the linebackers, what do you think? Like 3 linebackers, maybe 4 if someone's really great on special teams. But, you know, you can kind of manage some of those.
I think it'll be 4. I think Khalik will make it along with Mayo and then the 2 starters. And then I think the other thing, though, with corner that's interesting, and I'm glad you brought this up. By the way, just to close out running backs, like Jonathan Williams is a replacement level NFL running back. And that is the exact problem for running backs with all the contract stuff is Jonathan Williams is a good football player who could average 4+ yards a carry. Unfortunately, there's a million of those guys. And so that's, again, if you lose Jonathan Williams, you go sign another guy to your practice squad, and he's going to be just as good, which is not a shot at Jonathan Williams. It's just to say there's a lot of good running backs, and that's a different discussion. But the guy that we're not really mentioning here, because I think we would probably put him on our safeties list, but he's really kind of playing corner, is Quan. Like, he's playing nickel. Whether you want to call it Buffalo nickel or you want to call it, you know, the dime, whatever, like, he's the guy in the slot. And I think he can do that better than he's done it so far in these 2 games, although he did obviously recover and have the nice pick. Like, at that point, if you keep 5, Holmes, Johnson, the three other guys, St. Juste, Forbes, and Fuller, if Quan's your 6th and he's kind of a hybrid, that's not a bad place to be, and keeping 10 DBs is pretty standard.
Yeah, and I love Quan Martin. You know, I know he hasn't had the greatest training camp, but rookie guy, I think once the NFL kind of slows down to him, he's going to be a really good player. He was really good. He was really good and fun to watch in college.
Yeah, for sure. Which, good transition, Den. Now, first before we get your thoughts on some college football things, your bona fides, tell everybody about the new show on SiriusXM.
Yeah, so you can catch me every Saturday around midnight or so, maybe 11:30 some weekends, but around midnight, hosting college football overtime. It's on Channel 84. Think of it, Craig, as like a sports center on radio for college highlights. So we're going to have player interviews, all of the highlights you can stomach, and then some. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. The show's going to fly by. If you love college football, if you want to sweat out some Pac-12 after dark bets with me, it's going to be the place to be on a Saturday night.
That's awesome. You're going to crush that. That is so up your alley.
I appreciate it.
If I was ever awake at that hour, I would try to listen. Are you, like, would you be up watching Pac-12 games anyway? Like, is that your sleep schedule on the weekends?
Yeah, on Saturdays during college football. So, I mean, you know, football season you're sprinting a marathon. So, like, you catch up on the sleep during, like, April. So, yeah, I usually am up there pretty late because you never know what happens with some of those games on the West Coast. Some of them get really wonky really quick.
They do. And then I find out about them in the morning because I'm at the age, Denton, where, and look, it happens quick. It's not like I'm old. I'm in my I guess I'd call it my mid-30s. Still kind of early 30s. I'm 33. All right, and
that's still early 30s.
Okay, I'm in my early 30s, and I still am like, I have got to get to bed. So, you know, it happens quick.
Well, you got to be up for the pregame show too, so I get it.
That's fair.
Now that you guys have a little bit more, right?
Yeah, we'll use that as an excuse. We're gonna call it that. I have to get up early to do my pro NFL job. Yeah, no, there's no shot. Anyway, I'm curious, though, like, so much of what so many people love about college sports in general, college football, is the tradition, the history, and that is obviously being shredded right in front of our faces with all of the conference realignment, all that kind of stuff. And as someone who works in that world, in that college football world, like, are fans, like, it's one thing for those of us that are more casual college football fans, or fans, say, that watch with an eye on the NFL, like, who are the guys that are going to get drafted am I going to watch on Sundays in a couple years? But if we were to be doing a show in the South, in SEC country, or in any of the other college football hotbeds anywhere else in America, like, is it affecting the fan bases there as much as it is the national conversation, if you catch what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you're looking at SEC country, no, because they're on the right side of this, right? And you can say the same in the Big Ten. They're winning right now. You know, I think with all things, whenever change comes about, Craig, people are really hesitant at first. They're really weird. What is this going to look like? How is this going to impact me and my viewing habits? And, you know, I really do love the tradition of college football, but, you know, come this Saturday, and then certainly come next Saturday when all of the big guns are out and playing, if you're a college football fan, you're still going to watch. Like, as much as I don't love some of the things that have happened, because I value good traditional rivalries, and one of the things that I love the most about college football is its inclusivity. You know, no matter what area of the country that you live in, college football is valuable to you. Like, Wyoming is a great example. Ain't no pro team in Wyoming. Like, I don't know what they're doing on an NFL Sunday, but if you love football, you're watching Wyoming on a Saturday. And the same can be for Oregon, right? Like, technically they're in the Seattle market, but they care about Oregon versus Oregon State. And they have, you know, battle lines that they have on that particular dispute, right? So I am a little upset that we're going to lose some of those rivalries. But when they made the jump from the BCS to the college football playoff, this was always bound to happen, because the second you get some little sniff of the money you can make by doing your traditional playoff format, the money is always going to dictate everything. And it was only just a matter of time. Nick Saban warned everybody when this first came about, and people criticized him. They mocked him. They said he's just being kind of a sore loser, and he just doesn't want to do new things. But Nick Saban was right. Crazy, right? Like, the greatest college football coach of all time could see the future here. So in terms of the fans, I think if you're a fan of an SEC team or a Big Ten team or even a Big 12 team for that matter, you're still sitting all right. But, I mean, I really do feel for fans of, like, your Stanfords, your Washington States. Like, those programs have a lot of history in college football, and unless they make the jump to the ACC, they're going to be left in the dust of realignment.
Yeah, no, where Stanford and Cal are is kind of nuts right now, especially, like, I mean, Cal's an awesome program with a lot of history, but if you think of the athletic program as a whole, like, Stanford is screwed by the fact that their football team is not that good / not that popular, you know, comparatively, because Stanford has been in basically every other sport, or majority of other sports, one of the best teams in the country. But the problem is the two biggest moneymaker, men's basketball and football, are not massive entities at that school compared to, like, their women's basketball program has been great forever. Their soccer programs are great. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff, you know, down ballot, if you will. But I think, you know, to that point, Denton, the other part of this is, I think even college football fans that defended college football and would kind of repeat the NCAA lines about why they didn't pay players, for instance, over the course of years, now are going, yeah, like, the hypocrisy is pretty evident. Like, you can't do everything for money and then continue to not pay the labor. And, you know, NIL deals feel like the whole system's spiraling out of control. Do you think that there has to be some kind of control put on the chaos to make this feel like, I don't know, coherence, kind of the word I'm looking for? Or can college football, like, will the coherency and the stability, I guess, if you want to use that word, come from the fact that eventually people are going to be making a lot of money and they're just going to keep, there's so much money that it can't fail?
Yeah, it's probably more the second than the first. Like, I wish I could sit here and say, yes, I think there needs to be some sort of restraints and maybe handcuffs put on this beast that's out of control. But, I mean, what is the solution? Like, I've thought about this. I've literally lost sleep over this. I can't find an adequate solution for where we are now. The only adequate solution, Craig, was that this should have been dealt with 10, 15 years ago. You know, the NCAA put this off for such a long time that eventually it was going to bust, right? Like, if you put too much pressure inside of a small space, eventually there's going to be some sort of reaction. Well, this is the reaction. And if the NCAA, I mean, I swear to God, this is the dumbest organization that has any sort of real pull in anything, because they think that Congress is going to help them. Like, you can't go running to Congress after this already gets to the point where it is and say, please help us. First and foremost, I don't know if you've read the news, Congress has other things to deal with in this country than 18-year-olds getting paid an obscene amount of money. What I think is going to happen is there are going to be a lot of guys that get paid a very large amount of money that are not going to work out. And eventually, like, this is pretty common sense, Craig, but in case anyone doesn't know, it's a very bad investment to continually invest millions of dollars into 18 and 19-year-olds when they're coming out of high school, right? So eventually that's going to level out and it's going to become more reasonable. But if you really want to put some sort of limit on this or try to constrain this, you're going to have to do what the NCAA has spent decades telling us is not possible, and you're going to have to make football players specifically, and maybe a couple other sports, but you're going to have to make football players paid players and paid members of the university. That's the only way this is going to be able to work without some sort of major pushback. And trust me, I know, everyone knows, the colleges have the money. They're going to tell you they don't have the money. They have the money to do so. They are just the ones that are profiting off of the back end by not paying the players.
Right. They claim to not have enough to then also, well, then we got to pay the other sports, or this is paying for the other sports that lose money. And it's like, you can't be a nonprofit that makes $1 billion. That's just not. That's not how that works. So let's rethink this a little bit. Yeah. No. There's many. I just thought of 17 jokes about the Congress thing. I'm going to text you all of them because I would like to have a job through 7 o'clock and on into tomorrow. Any 30 seconds or less, most important, not even most important, most interesting thing you're most looking forward to watching in week 0 this weekend in college football?
Loving Notre Dame and Navy. I've been on record. I think Notre Dame is going to win big. I'm laying the 20.5. I'm interested to see if USC's defense can tackle this weekend as well, but that's buried on the Pac-12 network, so I'll have to be a degenerate to watch that game.
Yeah, Pac-12 network, may it enjoy its final season. Denton Day, everybody. You hear him alongside Kevin Sheehan, although you got Doc tomorrow, right? From remembering the schedule
tomorrow, and then Linnell on Friday.
All right, so got Denton in with those guys the rest of the week. Of course, producer of the Kevin Sheehan Show. You also catch him weekends on 106.7 The Fan. And now, starting at midnight, you got Denton on Sirius XM College. That's channel 84 for college football overtime. Appreciate the time, sir. We'll definitely do this again.
Greg, appreciate it, man.
All right, coming up next here on the Hoffman Show, it is time for Never Read the Comments. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Training camp pick 6 at 6 at the top of the hour. Always excited for that. And, you know, we've already started transitioning that to a regular season segment where we will continue the pick 6, picking the 6 biggest Commander storyline of the day. That segment was born in training camp. And we only have 2 more of them, today and tomorrow. So it's kind of a weird bummer. But right now, it is time for Never Read the Comments. And Anthony, we have typically launched Never Read the Comments a very specific way. I go on a long diatribe about how we should post things on the internet, and then we should be very careful, and they tell us, like, don't read the comments. And I say, what do we do anyway? And then you go,
read those comments, baby.
Yeah. And I feel a little bad that era of Never Read the Comments, it's actually almost a question. Should that era of Never Read the Comments be over? Because we now have an official fancy introduction. And it feels a little weird just to launch into it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for Never Read the Comments. And that would have been really great. It's a 5-point fine for me if I had the freaking thing on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for Never Read the Comments.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
Yeah. Now it's got a very fancy introduction. Anthony, should we still do the whole setup, or I think that kind of does it. I think your role in the introduction is immortalized forever. You really did save your best for last.
I did, indeed.
I think that's all we need. I think we're good. So with that, actually, I'm just gonna do it again. We'll just keep going with it. All right. The point is, you can leave your comments on any of our YouTube content. We stream live daily at the Team 980, and then we post the highlights there as well. Many of our comments come from my page, at Craig Hoffman. And occasionally we pull as well from 106.7 The Fans YouTube page, where we post full episodes of Take Command. Speaking of episodes of Take Command, a couple of comments on our breakdown of Sam Howell's performance, which I titled Sam Howell's parentheses, mostly good day. I did get someone asking, Anthony, why did you put the parentheses in the title? And I was like, because it was a mostly good day. Like, he did have the 2 big sacks. I don't get the question. And also, it caught people's attention. So apparently it worked. Because suckers like you are on this here internet. I probably shouldn't call the commenters suckers, huh? Insulting the audience bad?
Yeah.
All right. Well, because we like a good eye-catching title. That's why we did it. All right, to the comments themselves, not those. This one, which, by the way, I don't think it's that Clarence Thomas, as in the Supreme Court Justice. But this guy's name is Clarence Thomas, spelled with an I. You ever seen Clarence with an I before, Anthony? It's like C-L-A-R-I-N-C-E?
No.
Oh, I'm making fun of their comments. You're making fun of their names, although that does feel like it's a bit of a bit.
That is great. Clarence with an I.
What if it is the embattled Supreme Court Justice who is just on the internet DC sports taking? That'd be pretty hilarious.
Good gracious.
I'm going to doubt that. I'm not sure that man knows how to use the internet. Anyway, quickly moving on to the comment from this quote-unquote Clarence Thomas. If your first-year OC installs a new offense with 4 new starters on the O-line and a first-year quarterback, how many reps would you want? Give me all I can get. I'm just saying. I think it's great that Sam played the other night, and I think it could be very beneficial in the long term. It's just important to recognize that those of us who said he shouldn't play a whole lot were more concerned about the risk of, hey, this guy seems like he's pretty locked in. He's on track. I don't know that he needs these reps. They're good to get, but I don't know that he needs them, and I need him not to get hurt. And if he plays and you want him to succeed, you also are going to want to play other guys from offensive linemen to skill positions like Terry McLaurin, who did get hurt in the game. So, again, like, it's a big risk-reward thing. No one, I think, was saying that there wasn't a reward for playing Sam Howell, that there wasn't upside to it, that there wasn't a reason to do it. And considering he came out healthy, and the only bad thing that happened was that Terry is going to potentially miss a week, but might not even miss any time, you can be like, oh, well, hey, we got it. But that doesn't mean the calculation was off on the front side, especially considering Baltimore played their backups and it wasn't quite max level NFL football as a training ground. Dave says, I'm not a Commanders fan, but I really liked what I saw in Sam Howell, and to be honest with you, I was not surprised. I also don't care about the level of competition on the field. What matters most and what should have Commanders fans hopeful is that Sam knew what he was doing and knew where to go with the ball. He appeared to be in command of the offense and seemed like a quarterback that teammates get behind. I thought the play calling, albeit vanilla ice cream, really helped out the quarterback as well. Yeah, I think Bieniemy did a good job, and he's still calling from a very small section of the playbook. There's going to be so much fun stuff that happens in this offense this year. Fancy trick plays, like sexy stuff that doesn't, like, has a purpose. It's not like it's completely unsubstantive, but that's not the kind of stuff that you run every play haphazardly. And that stuff's going to be in the offense, and I'm pretty excited to see what it does for this offense, because a lot of that can generate big plays, but also, like, there's game plan runs that are not in this offense yet. And I know we're talking about Sam right now, but, you know, a lot of the big plays in the NFL in the run game happen because you set them up, and it's not something you can do. Like, you need kind of the right circumstances, but if you get it and you can get to it at the line of scrimmage especially, then sweet. And those aren't even installed right now because they take team-specific tweaks trying to use the way a certain player plays or the way that a team plays something in a very specific way. And so I'm excited to see that week one against Arizona with Eric Bieniemy looking at Eagle State from last year and saying, hey, like, how do we get these big runs against what Jonathan Gannon does? But even without that stuff, the mix of quick game, the mix of screens, the mix of downfield stuff, the mix of protections was all very good for EB as a play caller. Set Sam up to be comfortable, confident, knew where he needed to go with the ball. And yes, ultimately, will it be harder when it's just a little bit faster? And do we hope he doesn't lose that? Yes, but all you can do is take the test in front of you and Sam passed with flying colors, which really makes this comment so hilarious. Ravens fans got so in their feelings on the internet about losing the streak. Like, I don't think there were a bunch of there were Commanders fans celebrating the win, but no one was doing it seriously. Everyone was doing it with, like, tongue-in-cheek, wink, wink, this is fun. Like, yeah, we ended your streak, haha. Like, good-natured sports ribbing. And then Baltimore Ravens fans took it as if you had taken a personal affront to the family member they loved the most and said just the worst things about them. Like Aaron Butler, 93-73. You played against Baltimore's 3s and 4s. Stop trying to slight Ravens' greatness. I'm reading this in my angriest voice I can that also sounds obnoxious. Stop trying to slight Ravens' greatness. If you didn't know, then go learn something. Your first string is equal to Ravens' third string. Not talk. It was proven. Ravens play A ball in A conference. Commanders play B ball in B conference. Baltimore Ravens all day, every day. I say this very confidently. What a loser. Seriously, what are you doing? Go touch grass. Go pet a dog. Go have an interaction with another human being. And by the way, if you're Commanders fans and you're listening, you're like, tell them, Craig, Ravens, if you do this on anybody else's post, also go touch grass. It's going to be okay. Also, Aaron, your points are stupid and wrong, but that seems less important than you getting outside and interacting with another human being. I'm just doing this. I'm here for you as a service. If your first string is equal to Ravens' third string, then why did the Commanders have more points at halftime? when those two units exited. Because they're better. That's not what equal means. Sad. I need to touch grass immediately or pet a dog or move on to the next comment. Just never read the comments on the Hoffman Show here on the Team 980. All right. On yesterday's 1st and 10s, these are my 10 observations from the game. I actually thought this one was interesting. Short, quick comment that is, I think, encapsulating of how much of the fan base feels right now, which is a great thing. L33 React says, this EB plus Josh Harris plus Howell combo might be our salvation. And look, we don't know what Howell is going to be. Obviously, I do think there's really great reasons to have hope. We have no idea how long Eric Bieniemy is going to be here. Is there a chance that he takes over next year as the head coach for Ron and is here for a long time and successful? Absolutely. Is there a chance he's the OC next year here? I think there's a chance of that for sure. Is there a chance he's gone elsewhere and gets a head coaching job and everyone's really happy for him? Yeah, and even that, like if he leaves a legacy of what it means to work hard and raises the standard, and Tavita Pritchard then steps up as the OC and keeps that standard, I think there's a chance that like EB's legacy here is far longer than his career here, and that would be amazing. And obviously, from an ownership standpoint, what Josh Harris is doing, besides giving hilarious interviews, is amazing, and even that's amazing. Like he is being approachable. He is being a part of the community. He's being a part of the team as opposed to a guy who's like, oh, this is mine. Right? This is all good stuff and engenders good feelings. And the biggest feeling that it engenders is hope. And there is nothing in sports like hope, which gets us to some stuff that we'll talk about later of like, it's okay to be hopeful. It's okay to be looking ahead and saying like, hey, this could be something. And it's okay that hope doesn't die with a week one loss. Look, a week one loss would not be great. But let's say even it happens. Doesn't mean all your hope is going to die. It doesn't mean that everything that you've been led to believe is wrong or everything that you believe based off your own observations is wrong. Progress is not going to be linear, and there's going to be bumps in the road. But the cool thing about hope is that you actually think it can get better. And whether that's quarterback, whether that's, a competent coaching that Bieniemy brings, whether that's Harris and what he's bringing from the ownership suite, like the difference, besides all the criminality and stuff, and some of the other, like from a football sense, the difference between Harris and Snyder is under Snyder, it was never going to get better because he was too bad at the job of hiring good people to ever put together something sustainable. Because the people that operate in a way that creates success are not people that appeal to Dan Snyder. People that operated cheaply, people that operated underhandedly, people that were kind of snake oil salesman type of personalities. Those are the people that appeal to Dan Snyder because that's who he was. Harris is a competent business professional who's going to be attracted to competent people who are good at their job. And so that is ultimately the biggest piece of this, and what gives you hope is that even if the Howell and Bieniemy parts don't wind up working out as well as we think they might, and I certainly think they're going to work out. This is not me saying my opinion is actually everyone needs to slow down. No, I'm all in on Bieniemy, and I'm pretty in on Howell. But even if it doesn't go that way, there is a longer-term hope here that I think is really refreshing and exciting for those of us that plan to be in D.C. and caring about sports for a long time. Other than that, on 1st and 10, this was, I thought, an interesting comment. It's a little longer from Brian. Brian Mulholland, 2467. In my humble opinion, it was the right decision to play Hal and play him as much as they did. Hal is a young QB. He needs reps. Every preseason reps versus Baltimore's, or even preseason reps versus Baltimore's twos. I don't care about his stats. I don't care about the results. What I care about is that he got to see NFL defense at something close to NFL speed. What I care about was he put the teachable moments on tape that he could learn from. What I care about is him getting more work to make the game slow down for him and become part of muscle memory. If Terry misses week one, that's not great, but as long as it's not a season-long impediment, this team is deep enough at wide receiver that it can handle that. It needs Hal to progress at warp speed because we need to know for 2024 whether we're in the QB market or not. The worst thing that could happen to this team is getting to the end of the year and not being sure whether Sam's the guy or not. He doesn't need to be a finished product. We have to know whether we got the guy. It's honestly one of the smartest comments I've seen on the internet ever, but it's one of the smartest things I've seen about the quarterback situation in Washington, period. And I think it's a good, valid thing that I hadn't really thought of in terms of, hey, maximizing everything right now for Howell with this long-term vision. Where I would say the one area, it's not even disagreeing, it's adding on to or kind of tangentially to that comment is they didn't have to play Terry the whole time. And that's the one that I think kills me is like Sam could have been out there with Bieniemy Brown, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel, which we know because when Terry left the game, they didn't pull everybody else. And I would have probably protected Terry specifically to pull out. I would have thought about Jahan, but I probably would have left Jahan out there just because Terry's higher on the pecking order, barely, but he's higher on the pecking order. He certainly earned it as a veteran guy in a big money contract compared to Jahan in his second year, as good as I think he is. But kind of the politics play a little bit of a role there. The point is, like, I want to make sure that it's good enough that Sam is going to succeed. But I want to minimize the risk as much as possible. And there's very little upside for Terry being out there outside of being an outlet for Sam versus Jahan is, again, also in his second year and could use more reps along the same line. So I think it's a really good point about, hey, even if it's marginal progress because it's the twos, it is progress. And playing him in these games is helpful for that reason. Obviously, he's not going to play on Saturday because you're now so close to the regular season. You just want to get him there healthy. But I think that's a really good point, and one, I don't think it's unreasonable at all. I actually agree with it, and as much as I can while still acknowledging the risk that was there and that, you know, it was kind of a mixed bag going in. But also, I will say going in, we also thought that the tackle play was going to be a lot bigger concern. And to their credit, like, the tackles did a great job. Cornelius Lucas in for Leno and Trent Scott in for Andrew Wiley after that first series. All right. On the Should Howell Play video that we had from earlier in the week, there were some comments that made me want to absolutely lose my mind. This one I kind of addressed already this week and actually led to, in part, one of the other videos that we're going to talk about in the comments on it. But Red Wings 0142 said, this doesn't feel like a huge issue for me talking about the tackles. Just put Lucas in, slide Cosme outside, and put Sadiq in at guard. I know this game is over, and I shouldn't be able to be triggered by this anymore, but like the idea that you're going to take the guy that you're trying to get reps at right guard because he's barely played it and just kick him back out the tackle all willy-nilly. Like, some of y'all don't think and about like the actual logistics of how the game works and how like these are not movable pieces that are non-humans that you just boop, 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 plug and play the offensive line robot. Like, Sam Cosme is a human being with a brain that is trying to process right guard. And he talked about how whiplashing it was during the offseason when he didn't even have to play, when he didn't really know what position he was going to play. And then how much relief he felt when he finally got told, like, hey, dude, you're a right guard now. Does that mean in the regular season that you couldn't make that switch if you were in a dire spot? Of course not. But desperation is different than something you can plan for. So if one more person talks about Sam Cosme at right tackle, as long as Andrew Wiley is healthy this year, when Cosme is now committed to playing guard for the rest of his career and trying to be a Hall of Famer at it, like, it just should be an auto block. I can't believe I got that mad about that again. What am I doing? I need to touch grass again. Steve 4175 said, if both tackles, speaking of, geez, good gracious, if both tackles are injured during a regular season game, do you pull Howell until they're healed or replacements at the same level are found? It's honestly, Anthony, I can't believe a human being typed that, looked at it, and went, yep, I'm going to hit send on this.
That's reality, Craig.
It's the game doesn't count in the standings. No. And someone else, thank God, commented that back. Like, no, because it's a regular season game. But again, like, most people watching this are agreeing with us here on the smart side of the intelligence barrier. But some of y'all, whoo, your name's on the comment, man. Steve, people can click on your profile. Don't do that to yourself. At least this guy, bad comments. We try to avoid the bad comments so it doesn't turn into like a comment bash fest. I did a bad job today, Anthony. That's on me. At user RQ8EW8KF1M. Brilliant on my, when I ranted about why do some of you even like sports, because some people just like to be mad all the time and fire all the coaches. Goes, brilliant. Attack football fans for having adverse opinions to your own. I didn't attack football fans for having adverse opinions to your own. I asked why some of y'all like sports, because it seems like you just want to fire people all the time. But, you know, I guess that's why I got a radio show and you don't have a username. User RQ8EW8KF1M. Just saying. These comments I thought were really good. Shockingly, there's names on them. Austin2591 says, I don't think this phenomenon is unique to DC fans by any stretch, but at the same time, we have to be the most snake-bit fan base in all professional sports. Year after year of it'll be different this time. We have player A, coach B, exec C now, when it was all just the toxic machinations of one petty, vindictive man. I think a reflexive knee-jerk instinct of, oh, fire that guy, trade that player, is going to take a little time to slowly heal itself. I think that's fair. I do think DC sports fans are like that. But I think the reason you still care is because you have that hope. And hopefully that, you know, that knee-jerk instinct can go like, all right, hey, let's see how this goes and let's cheer on the team along the way if you think that, you know, the decision was good on the front end. It's one thing, it's really hard to root for someone if you're like, you know, say they hire the next coach and you're like, this guy sucks. I know this guy sucks. I don't believe in this guy. What is Josh Harris doing? It's going to be really hard to give that guy a chance. But I just don't think that it's a very fulfilling existence as a sports fan to just assume everyone's going to fail all the time. But when that's been your existence for 25 years, I get it. Glenn Smith, 491, says, what I don't understand is those fans who want to suffer pain in both August and December. I really come to the conclusion that many Washington fans would not know what to do if Washington was good. I think that is also, though, I agree with this. Why, like, the hope in August, I think some people think if they don't have hope in August and they're just negative all the time, then you won't feel the pain in December. But the truth is you just then are feeling pain, the negativity the entire time, as opposed to having the hope. But, you know, and then the come down, the crash. And that's how people protect themselves emotionally is like, hey, if I don't get my hopes up, I can't be disappointed. How's that going for you? Is what I would ask. But I do think that is also a very loud minority of the fan base, because the number of people showing up, for instance, to the Baltimore preseason game or training camp or our event, Burgundy and Sold, says that there's a lot of people with a lot of optimism. And I do think it's important, again, I'm going to say this for the 800th time in this segment, to touch grass sometimes, get off the internet, get out of the comment section, which is why we only dip into it once a week, and be like, no, most people are actually doing the right things. It's just some with specific complaints on the internet. Which brings us to, Anthony, the undisputed comment of the week from Lily518NC. Well said. Surprised to see so many men complain every chance they get.
That's a good concluding comment.
I don't think I need to add to it.
I don't think so either.
I think it speaks for itself. All right, we get back here on the Hoffman Show. It is our Pick 6 at 6. Ron Rivera spoke today. Eric Bieniemy spoke today. You'll hear from them next. Secondary wise, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Forbes. He had, some tough one-on-one reps that were kind of making their way. But
we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is like one-on-ones are designed for the offense to win, and especially the offense to win if they want to take a DB inside towards the middle of the field where there would typically be help. And every single one of everyone being like, oh, he got smoked. It's like, yeah, the dude ran a triple move where the quarterback would have been sacked and then ran to where the help would be.
And also all those are in the red zone, like red zone one-on-ones. So like, yes, like it's just so frustrating when fans get all crazy about it. Cause like red zone, you're going to run quarters, like red quarters all the time. So there's going to be a dude standing like right there. Like, if you want to run in, like, good luck. You're going to be dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, it just doesn't work that way. Like, go run in there. Fine. get smoked by that guy, get smoked by Foster or whoever, or Cam Curl. So it's always super frustrating. And like in those man situations, like in the red zone situations, you'll see the quarterback hold the ball longer because it's like they're running a dig, they're running an out, they run and if anything, the pressure is more acute in the red zone. So the ball has to be out quicker. So it's like all this stuff. And it's just like, and so what I will say is I thought his reps were competitive. I thought he was in relatively good position. Did he lose a couple reps? Yes. But I don't think that situation is entirely realistic. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Thinking about a rant today, and you want to know what? I'm in the mood. We're gonna go for it. This is an unplanned rant. It's one I was trying to keep in my back pocket, but I'm just gonna go for it. Some of the comments that I read through and look, social media is a cesspool. Social media is people. Social media is fans. Social media is the same calls that we've been getting in sports radio for 30 years put into a tweet or a YouTube comment or whatever. These are real people with real opinions who think these things. And I truly do not understand how some of y'all like sports, because it seems like your entire sports fan existence is miserable. You always want everyone fired, everyone traded. And I truly do not understand how you live that way. Sports are supposed to be fun. Sports are, there are serious parts to it, but the flippancy with which you just want to trade Chase Young. It's August, at the time I read this comment, 15th. They're not trading Chase Young. What are you talking about? Ron Rivera should be fired. EB should be the head coach. When was the last time an NFL head coach got fired in August? What I mean this sincerely. If that's all you think about all day is the coach getting fired, why are you here? What part of this is fun for you? I don't get it. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980, where you see Anthony Haney going all in. This is my favorite part, is when you fade the music down and then you are still like it's faded down on the radio and on everywhere, but you still have it going in your studio, so you just keep going in, and it's great.
I got it in Q in here, so you know.
Yeah, so you can hear it. It just looks like you're marching to the beat of your own drum. But little do the people know, the drums are continuing to go.
Yes, sir.
So that's fun.
Yes,
all right, it is time for pick 6, which means, Anthony, I have to remember where I put all of the files, because we don't have I'm not going to complain. But there's a lot of back-end stuff that we're working on. Our engineering department is hard at work getting everything situated. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time for pick 6.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their #1 fan.
Yeah, that's right. Eric Bieniemy, that man spoke today. But we gotta revisit something we kind of low-key discovered as we went earlier in the show. Afternoon practice means the press conferences and stuff came in a lot closer to showtime. And as we started to listen to some of what Ron Rivera had to say, there was something that emerged that we found, I don't know, humorous, let's call it. That's going to be number 1. I said that is going to be number 1.
Number 1.
All right. Anthony, do you still have the bites up over there, or do you need me to pull them up over here?
I got them up over here.
All right, because we got a lot of sound going right now. So if you could help me out, that would be great. So here's Ron Rivera talking about how he feels about the quarterback position this year compared to previous years.
I think there's not that question mark still. You know what I'm saying? You always kind of, for 3 seasons, I've always felt that I had a question mark. And now you feel like, wow, it feels like, okay, this is pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable, pretty confident, and I look forward to seeing it. I really do. I mean, the other night, seeing it was wow. That he did some really nice things, and let's keep rolling, let's keep growing, and hopefully it continues.
Now, you hear the calmness and the confidence in his voice, and I just want everyone to remember that less than a year ago, when asked about Carson Wentz, after Wentz struggled immensely in a Thursday night game that, unbeknownst to us at the time, he broke his finger in, this was how Rivera so vehemently responded and how much he felt like he had an answer at the time.
I'm going to speak my mind for a second. Honestly, it's been hard. It really has. You lose 4 games in a row, and everybody wants to get you, just get on you. And they've played their asses off. They have. They played their asses off for everybody. They come out and they show up. They work hard. All right. They don't complain. Okay. They hear all this stuff and they got to deal with it. I get that and I respect them for that because they're resilient. They come back. Everybody keeps wanting to say, I didn't want anything to do with Carson. Well, I'm the guy that pulled out the sheets of paper, that looked at the analytics, that watched the tape in the when we were at Indianapolis. Okay. And that's what pisses me off. Because the young man doesn't deserve to have that all the time. I'm sorry, I'm done.
That defensiveness of Carson Wentz is the same dude that today is like, yeah, I'm good on quarterback. We're chilling. Which is just... Also, my favorite... I haven't heard that bite in a long time. I gotta say, Anthony, my favorite part of that bite from last year is that he talks about analytics on a printed sheet of paper. Analytics, something definitely done digitally. Not that you can't get a printout. I just think it's like, hey, if we're going to talk about the analytics, I don't think you should point out how you're like, hey, guys, can you print it out for me old school style? I really like the flavor of, or the feeling of paper in my hands. It's a little thing. It's very silly. It's completely inconsequential. But it makes me chuckle.
That dude Ron makes me chuckle all the time, actually.
We were talking about this in a break earlier. Here's the thing. I think Ron is bad at lying. Both, he doesn't like to do it, which, like, I guess speaks well of his character. I like people that don't like to lie. If you're, like, super comfortable.
Right,
yeah, if you're comfortable lying, like, that's not exactly like, hey, I trust you. No, I don't think he likes to lie. And he's also, like, as the skill of lying. I'm not even going to say lying, right, in this way. Like, people talk about political correctness, and they misuse that term because they think you can say, like, offensive stuff. And you just don't like being politically correct. No, I like you to not, like, insult people and because of reasons that are beyond their control. Unlike you, who's, never mind. I feel like I've been salty enough today. But, like, what actual political correctness is, like, the origin of the phrase is politicians, like the people that work down the street on Capitol Hill, being able to say something without really saying anything at all. Or, you know, they're being politically correct about it because they don't want to offend some of their constituents by saying something that is true, but they're not going to want to hear. Not like being able to say a slur. That's not what political correctness means, right? And so for, Ron, when he's got to be politically correct in the true sense of the term, and he's got to be able to massage a situation and be like, Carson's continuing to, like last year, right? The better answer to a lot of the Carson questions would have been like, Carson's incredibly talented. That's why we brought him in. He's working on getting better, and we're going to continue to let him work. That BS meter goes off like, yo, that means he's not ready yet. But, like, Ron's bad at that stuff. He's like, how dare you? Because he thinks the performance art is going to distract or something. I don't know what the calculation is. I'm not going to try to put my psychologist hat on. I just think it's wild when you hear the difference of when I think he genuinely is not lying. I think today when you hear him say,
I think there's not that question mark still.
He's actually telling the truth, and he's much better at that when he can just tell the truth. So that's where we are on that. All right. I thought I had all the numbers pulled up, Anthony. We're really just having a time over here today. Everything that was saved from yesterday that we had prepared the segment. This isn't a fine on me. This should be a fine on the computer system. Hate that. All right, numbers. We need all the numbers. Open up the numbers so we can continue in our training camp. Pick 6 at 6 with number. Oh my God, please open faster. Number
2.
A lot of buildup for number 2. All right, the risk reward of playing starters in the preseason with injury is a possibility. Obviously, we saw the reward with how well they looked. The offense caught a great rhythm, and we feel like they're very prepared, and it seems like they feel like they're very prepared for the season. However, we also saw the risk side of it because, Terry McLaurin has a turf toe injury that could keep him out week 1. We'll get more injury updates on that in a moment. But here was Eric Bieniemy on how he thought of the risk reward. By the way, as his old boss, Andy Reid, might be playing Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd preseason game this weekend.
Well, I think anytime when you play this game, there's always a risk involved, right? But one thing that we're taking pride in is that, hey, we fear nothing. We attack everything. So we have to stay on course with our progression and our growth process. We're trying to make sure that we can collectively grow together as a unit and as a team. So the thing that I want is that our guys, they want to play. They want to be out there, which gives us a chance. And so sometimes players get hurt. You'd never want anyone ever to get hurt. But at the end of the day, sometimes you come out with the results like we did this past weekend. So, and I understand it's preseason, but all those little things matter, and it helps to build the confidence. And on top of that, it's helping to establish a foundation in which we're building.
Obviously, you still have practices before the season starts, of course, but if the starters really don't play in this last game, do you feel good about where everybody is with those needed game reps?
Well, our starters are still working, and we got a lot of work to do. So we'll see exactly what we need to do moving forward.
Sounds like EB might be pushing behind the scenes for you guys to play. Ron has already said they're not playing in the 3rd and final preseason game. But Yeah, I mean, the work is good. It's a chance to get out there and have it feel like it matters in a way that it just can't in practice. Like, you're competitive in practice, but you can't trick your mind. Like, it's still practice. Like, you want to win the practice, but the stakes just aren't there. They're more there in a preseason game. They're more there in a regular season game, more there in a playoff game, more there in a Super Bowl. That's just how it works. But to get that feeling is good. It's just how much risk tolerance do you have when, we talked about this at the end of Russell's show. Doc was in today and pulled me on for a minute or two. And when we say preseason games don't matter, they matter to the guys that are out there. You want to always compete. And I think seeing that competitiveness and the work matters and all that stuff. But if you win, you don't get any credit for it towards your ultimate goal of making the playoffs in terms of the standings. And with that being the case, there's amount of risk tolerance that you just have or don't. And certain coaches have more of it, certain coaches don't. And it sounds like EB's definitely from the school of like, yo, we're playing football. These guys get hurt in practice. Like, let's go out there. And I don't really disagree with him on that front. I just think like the quarterback is a different story because of the yellow jersey that you wear in practice where you can't get hit. And if you're not going to play the quarterback, what's the real point in playing some of the other guys? But we'll see who plays and who doesn't on Saturday against Cincinnati. All right, on to number 3.
Number 3.
Ron Rivera. How is Terry McLaurin doing? How are Logan Thomas and Chase Young doing?
I think for the most part, again, Terry's x-rays were negative. His MRI showed the same thing for the most part. So we'll continue to just monitor that, continue the rehab and the treatments and stuff. And, we're going to keep him off his feet for a couple more days and then start getting him ready once we get into next week.
Chase and Logan.
Chase, again, is just continuing to work on the side. He's got a doctor's appointment coming up. And we'll go from there. Everything's looking positive. It's looking in the right direction. Logan, things have been going well. He'll actually do some sideline work today, which is pretty exciting as well.
Some other injury news and notes from practice on the health front. Again, Logan Thomas working on the side like you just heard. But what was the one I just scrolled past? Oh, Jamin Davis. Jamin did not practice today because he was sick. So he was sent home sick. Don't want to get anybody else sick. He ultimately goes home. I didn't see, Anthony, I don't know if you saw anything on John Allen today. I didn't see him that he was in or out either way, which I think is, I guess maybe people just assume he's out. But did you see any tweets from anybody on whether he was practicing today?
No, I did not actually see anything about John. But I would assume that he was out there. But
he's got to have been out there.
Yeah.
Like out as in not out.
Yeah.
Like not playing today.
Yeah.
If he's messing with a plantar fasciitis, just stay off of it. We'll see if we can get an update on that at some point. To everyone, tweet your local beat reporter. Pick your favorite beat reporter and say, hey, did John Allen practice today? And then someone tweet me. That's what we're going to do. We're going to annoy all the beat reporters on Twitter. Because I used to love that as a beat reporter. But if none of them tweeted it, hey, it's not my fault. Also, can you believe, Anthony, not a single one of them goobers asked about
Cheeseman
today.
Again?
I can't go out there and I literally can't go do it myself.
I think you need to plant a bug in somebody's head.
Very clearly do. Yeah. I'm tempted to call 48 on the air right now, but I don't want to do that to him. I kind of do, but I'm going to let Sam live in peace. Maybe we'll just have him on the show tomorrow, and then I'll beat him up tomorrow at 5 o'clock. All right, continuing on, that's as much information as we have on the health and safety front at the moment.
Number 4.
The left guard battle. I think something that was pointed out earlier today by Ron and some of the reporters, I think Nikki actually tweeted this out, Nikki Javala, Sam, of course, colleague at the Washington Post, that last year they rotated Cornelius Lucas and Sam Cosmi a little bit at right tackle. And it sounds like a Chris Paul, Sadiq Charles rotation isn't entirely out of the equation this year for Rivera. And then another interesting name came up when discussing the guard position as well.
I think it's very good. I really do. I like what we got from Sadiq, and I like what Chris Paul has shown us. A young man that's showing us that he's very capable of that guard. Ricky Stromberg has had a really good camp. So it's been a lot of fun to watch him and his growth and development as well. But right now I think Sadiq and Chris have done a really, really good job for us. And I think the big thing obviously is, we're going to decide, who's going to be the guy pretty soon. But if they continue to practice the way they are, we probably have to figure a way out how we can play them both. They both are stout, powerful young men, and they're both smart young football players.
And do you anticipate Sadiq and or Chris playing on Saturday?
That will decide probably another day or two.
Speaking of Sam, there he is with the excellent follow. I don't hate the idea of offensive line rotation. I'm sure Logan does, and he might be able to convince me otherwise, because there's such a thing to playing together as a unit, and you don't want to put that on Leno and on Gates to be like, all right, hey, you got a different guard next to you. But if the level's not that different and it throws off the defense a little bit, you can keep the playbook the same. There's not like certain stuff you're calling just because one's in the game and the defense isn't like hip to that. And it keeps them both fresher to where they both actually play better over the course of a game. I don't necessarily hate that conceptually, but I don't love it either, just to be clear. Like, you want one guy to play offensive line. There's a reason they don't rotate offensive linemen in the league. It's very, very rare. So we'll see how that ultimately plays out. My guess is Sadiq's just going to be the guy. But, they did it last year, and some of the same coaches are still around in terms of the offensive line group. Obviously, Bieniemy might have different thoughts, but we will see. All right, your training camp, pick 6 at 6. 6 most interesting things from the day at Commanders Camp. Off we go with
number 5.
The offense, where is it right now? Mostly resting because Jacoby Brissett is actually going to get the start on Saturday. He got some reps with the ones today, whatever was out there of the ones. Obviously, Terry's not practicing. They're still monitoring some of the linemen, etc. So Eric Bieniemy, as he spoke today, was asked, how is the offense at this point?
I think we're taking the necessary steps, but we still have a long way to go. There's a lot of things that we can clean up and continue coaching through. First of all, our staff is doing a hell of a job. They're doing a great job of getting these guys aligned. They're doing a great job of getting these guys to gain the complete confidence in what we're doing. But when it's all said and done with, our guys are finding ways, creative ways, to drag themselves across the finish line. And like I said, when you have that resilience, it's something that you can build upon. I'm starting to see the second effort. On top of that, I'm seeing guys playing faster. So all those things are just coming to light. Now we just got to continue cleaning up all the little stuff that's going to help us to become the better team.
So, work in progress, and of course the biggest part of that work is Sam Howell. What does Bieniemy think about his first 2 preseason games, as well as the work that he got done in the joint practices?
You know what? I thought his progression has been right where you would like it to be. I thought he's just stayed the course. He's learned a lot just being out there each and every day. I think watching Jacoby go out there and sling it around, making all the throws and just letting everything, go free, that has helped him because Jacoby is a outspoken individual in that room, and he's helped Sam tremendously. The thing I also like is that Sam, he auto-corrects, and you love that about him. And he takes it personal, he takes work home, and he loves to talk through all the little detailed nuances of the game. So I think he's right where he needs to be. He's done a heck of a job. I thought he did a good job as well in the practices, and he did a heck of a job in the game this past, whenever it was, just a day or two ago.
Eric Bieniemy is all of us. It did great on that time that they put on uniforms and played football. Last but not least, the linebacker play back on the defensive side of the ball. That is our
number 6.
Jamin Davis. We already mentioned he went home sick today, but he was fine in the game the other day. Cody Barton, I think a little bit more of a mixed bag. Here's Ron on their performance as a duo Monday night.
Well, I think the biggest thing for Cody is just got to get used to the style of play. We're a little different from his time in Seattle, and yet we do some very similar things in terms of coverages. But some of our downhill techniques are some of the things that he's got to get used to. The first game you saw him, he was really good with it. The second game, I think he was kind of a little hesitant to really get downhill. And I think one of the mistakes you got to be careful is that when you try to be right and fit it correctly, and that guy cuts back, now you put yourself in a bad spot. He's done a nice job, I think, assimilating and trying to get a grasp of that. What was really good to watch, though, was his play speed, his quickness to adjust and to make up for that little hesitation. I love his communications with not just Jamin, but the whole unit. I think he's really starting to get a good feel for the guys. It's one of those things that again, the more he plays, the more reps he gets, the better he's going to be for us. This week, he'll get a lot of reps in practice, just trying to get everything honed up and get everything ready to go for the regular season, more so than anything else. Very pleased with Jamin. Jamin's playing fast. He won't be at practice today. He's sick. He's got some sort of, they sent him home with some medicine, just so you know. But he's playing faster. He's more confident. You see his run, hit, and tackle. I mean, he is still really good at that. I thought some of the coverage stuff, he did a nice job putting himself in position. And really pleased with the progress.
Good stuff on both. Obviously, I think better stuff on Davis, which you'd expect. He's a first-round pick with his third year in the system. He's got to be better this year. He's got to continue. And better is like not saying like he was bad last year, because back in the last year, Jamin Davis was a very, very productive football player. But better because you want to see him continue to grow. And I think he has shown that. And he's gotten better as camp has gone on too. And he's gotten kind of back into shape after an offseason that was slowed by a necessary surgery. And that means you can't work out like you want to. And you wind up playing your way into shape. And it doesn't look very good to start. And you're behind mentally because you haven't been able to get the reps and all that stuff. So he's made up that ground, has continued to grow. And now can Barton continue to just lock in on the details is going to be a big question for this team. But one thing that I do want to say about the linebackers that I don't think did a good job of saying the other day is, for both of these guys, their job is way easier when John Allen and Daron Payne are in there, and obviously Sweat and Young. But with those four in front, the run fits and everything get way easier because they're going to be clean a lot. And on the back end coverage stuff, when Cam Curl is out there, he's a game changer from a communication standpoint, from a playmaking standpoint. And so them being out there with the twos, even though they were playing twos, meant they were being asked to do a job that they typically don't actually have to do, which I think is an encouraging thing to remember going into the regular season. All right, that is our training camp. Pick 6 at 6. We got one more of them tomorrow. Final day of training camp. Rivera will speak. Dak Del Rio will speak, and we'll see what happens as they get ready for the preseason game against Cincinnati over the weekend. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. And when we get back, Anthony, what are we doing when we get back? We threw out a lot of ideas for 6:30. What did we land on?
I think we're going to go with this, that, or the other thing because we're going to do the stadium thing tomorrow, or we can flip it if you want to do that because it'll give you more time to do the this, that, or the other thing. And yeah.
There's a lot of random stuff going on in the league, and we're going to talk about it, including the Jonathan Taylor trade. That's what we're going to do next. How nervous were you to interview Josh Harris?
Dude, that's a really funny story. Like, he was sitting there, he's sitting in the front row, and I was like, man, should we try to get him? And so I just went up and I was like, hey, man, I know the security guard that was with him. Like, it's good to know security guards. And he was like, yeah, man, like, hey, Josh, this is Logan Paulson. He works for the team. He was like, hey, Josh, really nice to meet you. Would you mind doing like a 2-question interview at halftime? And then he goes, just keep it general, and yeah, no problem. He was so kind and generous with his time, and like, it was great.
And I thought it was so great that he was just like, no, I'm going to sit right there. I'm going to get kind of a feel of the sidelines. But especially when it's raining, like, I thought it was great that he was on the sideline.
Again, as a former player, it felt really cool in the rain to see him hanging out, him and his boy. I got a ton of respect for that. And, he was great in the interview, really accommodating. So thank you, Mr. Josh Harris. But yeah, man, I was a little nervous.
as someone who was on the Washington beat in 2019 when Josh Johnson came in and finished that season, I cannot believe Josh Johnson is still in the league playing for yet another team. I think he's played for all of them. That'd actually be fun. Can he try to play for every single team? He's going to need a couple midseason trades. But
he's close.
He's closer than he should be.
Because how old is he? How old is Josh Johnson?
I don't know. Here, we're going to look this up. This is always my favorite radio, but we're going to look this up because
he's
the
37.
world deserves to know. He's 37.
That's older than I thought.
And that's the thing. He was like in his 30s when he showed up and Jay Gruden was like, I don't know, we're going to let Josh run around in 2019. And he's played for literally 14 NFL teams.
Wow. Even if he gets half, even if we can get just 2 more in his career,
that'd be great.
Get half, to say that he played for half the league, because at that point, you got to think of the man cave, right? You have your name on a game-worn jersey for 16 different teams.
Well, and that doesn't count the other leagues he's played in. Like, I don't know what league the Sacramento Mountain Lions are in. Apparently an American football, it's the American football team based in Sacramento, United Football League. But he played for him in 2012. He also played for the Los Angeles Wildcats. Who can forget of the kind of original XFL 2.0? If the current one's 3.0 and the one with He Hate Me back in the day was 1.0. He played the San Diego Fleet in the Alliance. Remember the Alliance?
Oh, yeah. I forgot he was in that league.
So he's played for like 17 teams, 14 NFL teams, and counting. Clearly, if there's one of those two guys gets midseason traded, it's going to be Josh Johnson, because that's what happens to Josh Johnson.
This is a work of art. This whole... He's played for the Niners 4 times. 2012, 2014, 2020, and then 2022. He's played for the Niners.
I think on your show, I was going to do this to you, but I decided that we didn't really have the time to do it properly. You on your show, just randomly, you should just quiz your co-host and be like, did Josh Johnson play for this team?
Oh, that's actually a great bit. That's a great bit. If we start that bit, I will give you full credit for it, but this is a great bit.
Excellent. That's all I need. All right. If you need me to come guest host it, I will buy a tiny microphone off Amazon and plug it in and everything. It's the Hoffman Show, wrapping up here, the final half hour on the Team 980, and always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Time for This, That, and the Other Thing, segment we bring out when we got stuff to talk about that doesn't fit neatly in any other bucket, just some random stuff, NFL news and notes. We got an international story as well, so Anthony, let's get to it. The this today, the biggest of this, that, and oh, by the way, that other thing. Your boys in Indy, Jonathan Taylor, trade request. They're like, hey, man, all right, you want to get traded? Go find one. And I am so curious how this is working behind the scenes, because Taylor has been given permission to seek a trade. But it's like, hey, you got to find one that works for us. So does, like, his agent know what hey, you got to find a second-round pick in return. You got to get a third. Like, oh, go get us your best offer. Like, feed us all the offers on Friday, because now there is a Friday deadline for this to go down. I'm just curious, like, what are the Colts actually looking for? Does the agent for Jonathan Taylor know this? And will anybody actually be willing to give up that price for Jonathan Taylor, who has been banged up, is currently technically injured, as he's had the ankle injury that's been bothering him for a while. And then last week he was allowed to leave for an unspecified personal matter, which probably is that he wanted to be traded. I don't know, man. It's a weird situation, and I just don't. Let me put it this way: I do not trust Jim Irsay to handle things on the level.
I mean, he's already come out and said, whoever tries to trade for Jonathan Taylor, you must understand that he will be a big haul. So they're going to be asking for a lot. And,
but is that an excuse to be like, sorry, man, we tried, but we're not going to trade you?
Yeah, they gave him a deadline, so.
Like, is it your best offer by Friday and then we're going to trade him? Or like, hey, if we don't get a second rounder or a first rounder back, we're not trading him?
I think that's what it is. I mean, he doesn't have the leverage in this situation. He's under contract. Like,
right.
I understand he wants to be paid. You know.
Do you think he would sit out, though?
Like Le'Veon Bell did?
Yeah. Because here's the thing with Taylor. He's undeniably one of the best backs in the league, right?
Yep. A lot of their offense.
A lot of their offense. He does have some leverage in that way, like to get more money potentially. But he also, like as a human being, has kind of been insulted by the owner. And like, I don't know that he wants Jim Irsay's money. Like, obviously he wants a lot of Jim Irsay's money. But like, I could see him being like, I'm never playing for that team. James Harden style, but actually with substance behind it. I'm never playing for that dude's team. And it's not the general manager. It's not the president. It's not the coach. It's the owner. That dude came after me. I'm not playing for his team. I could see him doing that.
And what does the fine situation look like?
Not good.
Exactly. I mean,
money talks at the end of the day.
I agree with you though, Craig. Like, and the thing is, like, he's still out. He's still, recovering from his injury from last season. So if he did want to, sit out and, wait, I guess till he's fully healthy, I could see it. But them fines are going to add up, dude. Sitting out, new CBA.
I don't know what the fine is exactly. I do know that he's only made about $6 million, it looks like, in his career. Maybe not even.
Yeah, because he's second rounder.
Was he second rounder? He's got a 4-year deal.
Yep, second rounder.
Yeah, that's right. He was number 41 overall. Next year's the big money year for him. Like, he makes 4.3 base next year. I mean, he's gotten, let's see, what's 800? He's got $2.4 million signing bonus, and he's made $610 as a rookie, $965 last year. Oh, so no, this year's the big year for him. Sorry, it was off a year. He made 1.3 last year. So he signed like a $7 million contract. Total, he's gotten 3 and change of that, almost 4 of that. So, like, you can make double what you've ever made by just playing this year. And that's the tough spot with these rookie deals is like, you just don't have any leverage. So I don't know where this winds up. Yay or nay, Commanders, should they be in on him? Yeah, I agree. Absolutely not. It helps if your microphone is on.
I had the wrong microphone. No, I don't think we should be in on him. He costs too much, and we have B-Rob here.
Correct.
2 years in.
And Chris Rodriguez, who might be a good dude for the future. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of teams get linked. If I make a call, it's like, yeah, you can have him for a 6th. Okay, cool. Like, sure, but I'm not giving up anything about.
I mean, a team like the Dolphins, maybe next year. They have a whole bunch of just running backs, just fat speed guys.
Yeah.
Them maybe. You got the Raiders and Josh Jacobs.
That'd be so dumb. Like, we don't want to pay Josh Jacobs. We're going to pay Jonathan Taylor.
Hey, look, I'm just throwing out some teams.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where he would
running
land,
back. Running back market is a yikes, man.
Yeah,
All
it
is. That's this. Here's that. Before we get to the other thing, the 49ers have said Sam Darnold wins QB 2 spot behind Brock Purdy, which means that they could be potentially looking to get rid of Trey Lance. What's interesting is they've got a number. I saw Brandon or someone who was tweeting about this earlier. Was it Diana? No, it wasn't Diana. I don't remember who it was. But you also have veteran Brandon Allen still on the roster as a 4th quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan has apparently talked about potentially even keeping all 4, but certainly seems like he wants to keep 3 after what happened to them in the NFC Championship game last year. So if that's the case, like, could you trade Lance and still have 3? That's kind of the thought. I think at this point they just need to, like, it's good for Trey Lance. It's probably good for the Niners just to move on. He's clearly not your guy for the future. You're hoping Purdy is. And if it's not Purdy, I don't think it's going to be Lance. Sucks for Trey Lance. It sucks for the 49ers. But ultimately, sometimes fresh starts are good for everybody. And if you're the Niners, I think you just have to look at it as a sunk cost and say, yeah, we gave up a lot for him, but continuing to invest time in him just adds more to the cost, as opposed to cutting ties and being like, well, we spent the money and the product didn't work like we thought, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm curious, though, what his trade value would be.
Not
like,
good.
A third? At best,
No.
could you get a third?
No. Would you give up a third?
No, I'm not giving up a third.
I would think about a 5th.
A 5th?
Maybe, but I'm thinking more 6th. I would be willing to do something conditional where it's like, I'll trade you a 6th. If he starts a game for me in the next 2 years, it's a 5th.
Big swap. And
then it's a 4th if he starts like 5 games. So if he becomes my starter, I'll give you a 4th. That's about as high as I would go.
Okay.
Because also, like, you say, well, what if he starts for the next 5 years? The Niners aren't going to want to delay the pick that long. So it's not like, hey, well, if he starts 25 games in the next 3 years, then can we get a first? And it's like, no, because the Niners are not going to want to have to wait till 2027 to get their pick. But I would do it something conditional probably this year, but maybe over, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal, right? So, could you do it over the course of that and you're willing to wait 1 extra year? Maybe. But we'll see. All right. That's this. That's that. Now for the other thing. Left turn away from American football to global football. And this absolutely disgusting story from the World Cup final where Jenny Hermoso, the midfielder for Spain's champion World Cup team, spoke for the first time Wednesday, urging action in a joint statement with her players' union after she was on the receiving end of a kiss from Spain Football Federation President Luis Rubiales. If that wasn't clear by the wording of that, she was on the receiving end of a kiss that was an unwanted advance, a.k.a. that is sexual assault. Like, we don't need to tiptoe around that. Like, Rubiales should have been arrested for that. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, this dude, you can't just go kiss people, especially when you're in a position of power. You're in charge of the federation. And by the way, there's so much more to the story with the Spanish Football Federation and how terrible they are and how many awful people they've empowered, including the coach. Like, 15 of Spain's top players were not at the World Cup, and they won anyway, which is remarkable. But because they refused to play for the coach that this absolute doofus and horrible person hired. So she said, my union, FootPro, which is the global union for soccer players, in coordination with my agency, are taking care of defending my interest in being the interlocutors on this matter. She called the incident an act that should never go unpunished and said it would work to, or FootPro, I apologize, said that the act should never go unpunished and would work to sanction and adopt measures to protect players against actions we believe are unacceptable. I can't believe this guy still has a job. It's gross, it's disgusting, it infuriates me as much as anything I've seen recently in sports, which is saying something because there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens all the time. There's no place for this in our society. There's no place for this in sports, certainly. And powerful men who prey on women, especially women who work in their organizations, can get a one-way, do not stop at go collect $200 ticket to hell. Capiche? That's this, that's that, and that's the other thing that we could have spent a lot more time on. But I think it's pretty simple, and that's really, it's not about spending the time on it. It's about getting to the point in a situation like that. I think we did just that. All right, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, at times, I could do better job producing the show on video form. I probably could have taken you out of the thing for that. Because when I was reading some stuff and I pulled the screen back up with your face on it, and you were sitting there very attentive, like, he's doing a great job, and I'm just going to let him do this and stay out of the way.
Yes, those were my exact thoughts.
All right, well, at least there was a good job portion in that. All right, we can skip what's trending because we kind of just talked about the main stories. I was going to talk about that anyway. The Nats play tonight. They play the Yankees. They'll hopefully beat them again. That's what's trending. When we get back, real things, real people said in real microphones. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, wrapping up live here on the free Odyssey app and on YouTube at the Team 980, where we'll be back tomorrow, 4 to 7. And we got a Friday show, too. Crazy how that works. Every single day, Monday through Friday, 4 to 7. At least for right now, until Wizards season, basketball season. Then sometimes the show's going to end early, which is crazy. Crazy to think about. That's actually not that far away. Like, enough that in our planning meeting today, we're talking about, like, what's our plan for, like, Wizards Media Day? But we got plenty of football to talk about before we get there. Anthony, you look like you're in shock right now. What is happening over there?
We got some breaking news, Mr. Hoffman.
What's that?
First of all, Chris Jones is talking about holding out
till week
8
yeah.
weeks.
He put that on social media. Take that for a grain of salt.
Insane.
Was there actual breaking news? Or
and then also
Jonathan
Taylor, 2 trade offers for JT.
I literally said that earlier in the show.
Oh.
Dog. Oh, my. Anthony.
I apologize.
Bro, I know you've had a lot of work to do today. But we just talked about the Jonathan Taylor thing. And I might have said it in that segment that there are 6 teams that have reached out and 2 that have made offers.
Yes.
I definitely said it in What's Trending earlier.
Oh. Sorry.
That's not breaking news. It's information. It's news. It's not breaking. It's something we've known for hours.
You might be onto something.
I thought that you were going to be like, I thought either something crazy was happening in the game that's on TV, which, by the way, Mexico just beat Japan in the Little League World Series. So just saw that. I was like, did something crazy happen in the game? Did you see something that I'm not seeing? Like, what happened? And your response is things that happened hours or days ago that I already knew. And that much of the audience might have also known. Cool.
I'm embarrassed, Craig. I'm embarrassed, man.
You don't need to be embarrassed. You don't need to be embarrassed. Perhaps ashamed, but not embarrassed.
Okay.
What do we got on the show tomorrow? Do we have anything planned for tomorrow? We're gonna go through our NFL stadium list.
Yes, that is
pretty pumped for that.
Set in stone. Jack, possibly.
Oh yeah, Jack Del Rio's talking. We won't have Jack on the show, but Jack's voice will be on the show from a press conference.
Yes.
Last day of practice. Also, Rachel and I just signed up today for this fitness race event in September. I want to run it by you. I want to see how you feel like you would do. I'm excited. I'm actually
how I would do.
Yeah, like you'd be like, I'd crush that. I would. If you're like, I would crush that, then you should come do it with us. We'll sign you up.
Okay.
You're intrigued, aren't you?
I mean, I'm curious now.
Okay.
I really want to know because when I get challenged, Craig, 90% of, I want to say 99% of the time, I'm accepting the challenge.
This is actually, like, there's a lot of stuff where I'd be like, nah, Anthony would just smoke me. Like, if we're racing most distances, if not all distances, like, I don't know what the distance is that I could beat you at. You're very fast and twitchy. You're explosive. You also, like, actually run distances sometimes and, like, run them so much faster than I have ever run them in my life. Like, you're a good athlete. Like, I'm a fine athlete. You're a good athlete. On lifting stuff, like, I could probably get you on some lifts. I'd hope so.
Definitely legs.
I skip
leg day.
I'm bigger human than you.
Yeah.
Which helps. But because this is like a mix of very specific things, this actually might be a fun one-on-one between the two of us.
Uh-oh.
I'm
Uh-oh.
Like, I don't know how you are as a rower and on a ski erg and how fast you can farmer's carry and stuff like that. But this one would be a fun one.
I'm intrigued.
All right, we're gonna talk about this tomorrow. We're gonna have to pick one thing quickly. It's time for Real Things Real People Said into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not gonna be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, let's see. Let's look through the list. Oh God, there's a lot of stuff here. Let's go with this one because anytime we can make fun of Stephen A in this segment, honestly, it's one of my favorite things in the whole world. Because one of the things that I can't stand about the state of sports media is kind of the Stephen A-ism of it, where like everything is on fire all the time and you say stuff and it doesn't really seem to be consequences. Now, Stephen A has a lot, and Stephen A's worked really hard. I have a lot of respect, actually, for Stephen A and what he's built. But there's certain elements of his game that I'm just like, bruh. And if you're going to go out and say something about a player, you should be right about it. Like when Stephen A said that Lonzo Ball was having trouble standing up out of a seated position. And as he was doing one-legged squats, Lonzo Ball responded.
Stephen A, who are your sources, bro? Please tell me who your sources are. Come on, man. Come on, man. You gotta stop yapping. And I actually like you, man. I don't even know you like that, but I like you. I'm coming back, man. Come on. Stephen A.
Perfect response from Lonzo Ball. No notes. That's how you do it. You don't have to get mad. You don't have to start a war. Although, didn't Stephen A respond?
He did respond today.
Some stupid way.
Yeah.
He can't just admit that he's wrong.
Yep, pretty much.
That is the thing that, like, I got 25 seconds for this rant. That is the part that bothers me about Stephen A, Skip, and the take artist thing. It is fine to have takes. I have takes all the time. But sometimes you're wrong. And it's also okay to admit that you're wrong. And the people who never, ever admit that they're wrong are, because I'm out of time and don't have any other way to say this, the worst. See you tomorrow on The Hoffman Show.
Hey, it's Brian Mitchell, and I know a little something about performance.